All right, hey guys, it's a beautiful day for music. It's a wonderful day for sound. Come on and learn this lick with me. So for the first two counts of this, I just have 1 E and 2 E and. But you'll notice here on the music that the second partial or part of that figure is accented. So what I'm going to do here is start with an unaccented right hand, and my left hand is immediately going to start its travel up as I'm playing with the right hand, just to make it nice and comfortable. So I have this 1 E and then off of the left hand, 2 E and. Notice that I'm already rebounding that right hand nice and smooth, just to make sure that when I get to this next downbeat, my hands will already be set up in an efficient motion for me to play this correctly. Let's try this just a few times nice and slow, and I'll kind of give you one or two ways that we can kind of build this up in a nice, comfortable fashion. Going this speed. Da 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 da. Ready and go and. 1 E and 2 E and stop. Again. 1 E and 2 E and stop. Again. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Again. Yeah. Right, left, right, left, right. Again. 1 E and 2 E and Cool. Now, when you get a little bit faster, once you kind of have the idea that that's where the accents are going to go, what I'm going to end up doing here is taking away the accents, but then kind of speeding up the actual tempo a little bit. So I'm just going to start with going 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and. And what I'm doing there is I'm just trying to get a nice, consistent, even tone with my right hand and left hand. For us traditional players, it's super, super important to try to get a nice, even sound and tone before we add on any sort of ornamentation or any kind of articulations, especially being that we're dealing with a different set of muscles right from the beginning here. So I'm going to start with that, just nice and even. Da 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 da, and then eventually I'm going to start to add on just bigger and bigger accents when I do that. Just kind of going back and forth between the non-accent ones and the accented ones. Let's do it. 2, ready, and da 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 very nice. Nice. Now, for your own purposes, you can take that a little bit slower, you can take that a little bit faster, but that's the kind of stuff behind the scenes, like within your drum line or within your drum corps or college group or whatever, that you might not necessarily do as a group or within your sectionals, but that you can definitely kind of get underneath the hood on your own time at home, just to kind of work that out. So then when you actually show up to your rehearsal or practice, you already can have a little bit of fluency with that type of motion. Notice when I'm playing those accents also, that I'm not actually adding any extra pressure within my fulcrum system. I'm keeping it nice and relaxed, and even when I'm singing it here, I'm not even really singing the accents most of the time. I'm just going da 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 da, just to make sure that the rhythmic integrity is always there. Let's move along. So for this next count here, I have a double paradiddle, right? Now, in this particular case, I will be accenting both of the paradiddles here, and I have a little bit of a diddle in between both of those. So what I'm going to do here is just start off without that little double articulation and just play that double paradiddle ending on the left hand. Let's try it this fast. Ba 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 ba. 2, ready, and go, and ba 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 ba, and go, and ba 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 ba. Notice I'm rebounding that right hand. And go, and da 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 da, and go, and da 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 da, yeah, go, and da 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 da. Very nice, go, and da 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 da, and go, and da 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 da. Now, two things here that's going to really set up a precedent for me. That very first left hand that happens in between the those little left hands are really going to set up the precedent for the kind of sound quality and the kind of dynamic that I'm going to be expecting when I get to the two doubles. So the I really want those to be nice and the same. So be super, super specific when you're playing those in the beginning and really try to only zoom in on those notes with your ear. It's kind of a weird thing, but really try to zoom in on those particular notes with your ear. So when you're balancing your sound quality internally within yourself, you can be super consistent, right? Let's try to listen for that this time. 2, ready, and da 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 da. Again, ready, and da 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 da. Again, ready, and da 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 da. Again, ready, and da 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 da. Yeah. So now what we're going to do here is just add in that little bit of a doubled articulation on that left hand on the first. Da 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 da. 2, ready, and da 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 da. Still rebounding that right hand. Da 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 da. 2, ready, and da 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 da. Yeah, ready, and da 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 da. Yeah, ready, and da 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 da. 2, ready, and da 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 da. 2, ready, and da 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 da. 2, ready, and very nice, and da 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 da. 2, ready, and da 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 da. 2, ready, and da 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 da. 2, ready, and da 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 da. 2, ready, and da 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 da. Nice. Now let's take that back and add it on to da 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 da. That much. Going that speed. Da 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 da. 1, 2, ready, and da 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 da. 2, ready, and da 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 da. 2, ready, and da 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 da. Cool. Now, off of this left hand where we just ended up here, technically kind of on the upbeat, I have just a basic triplet roll. And that's just going to be left, left, right, right, left, left, right. It's going to start on the upbeat. And what I highly advise you to do, especially being that it's on the upbeat, is to both think about it in the traditional way that kind of rudimental snare drummers think about triplet rolls. So here, that check that's happening underneath, that sort of thing. But then also go back and try to hear it as bigga-da-bigga-da-ba, bigga-da-bigga-da-ba, or daga-daga-daga-da, daga-daga-daga-da, either kind of in a 2 couplet sort of pattern, but then also in a 3 sort of kind of pattern. Ba-ga-da, ba-ga-da, or big-ga-da, big-ga-da, or dig-ga-dig-ga-dig-ga. Either one of those, yeah? So let's take that just by itself a few times. I'm going to act as if it's on the downbeat right now, and then when we go back and take it in context, we'll play it for real off of the upbeat. Let's try it. Bigga-da-bigga-da-ba, ready, and go, and 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 bigga-da-bigga-da-ba. Nice and open, bigga-da-bigga-da-ba, yeah, I like it, bigga-da-bigga-da-ba, ready, and go, and 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 bigga-da-bigga-da-ba. One more time, bigga-da-bigga-da-ba. Cool. Now let's go back and take this in context. So I have bigga-da-da-da-da, bigga-da-bigga-da-ba, bigga-da-da-da-da, bigga-da-da-da-da. Right? 1, 2, ready, and bigga-da-da-da-da, bigga-da-da-da-da. 2, ready, and bigga-da-da-da-da, 2, ready, and yep. 2, ready, and 2, ready, and 2, ready, and you got it. Cool. Let's take that back now to the beginning just so we can add that much into our little stew, our little soup here. So, 2, ready, and 2, ready, and 2, ready, and awesome. Now, what's happening here, right after I get done with this, I'm going to immediately follow it up with the paradiddle-diddle. So I just got done doing this, and then right on that next downbeat, I have paradiddle-diddle with both of those 2 first notes accented there. Here. paradiddle, right? Now, for our purposes here, I'm going to go ahead and add on the next sort of 2/16 notes with this, because that gets us kind of to the downbeat, or the true downbeat of the next little phrase here. So I have paradiddle diddle single stop. Paradiddle diddle single stop. Yeah? Paradiddle diddle single stop. Paradiddle diddle single stop. Yeah? Paradiddle diddle single stop. 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 And what I'm really looking for here, as I kind of do this open to close sort of technique for me rehearsing this, is I want to have absolute consistency and evenness of notes, especially within those smaller notes. Those are the notes that a lot of people will neglect sometimes. So I'm being super specific with those, making sure that the consistency and the integrity of that rhythm is nice and beautiful all the way. Yeah? So taking it back now, and let's try to add that on. So let's start right at the beginning. So my bad. Taking it to that downbeat. Let's try it. 2, ready, and 2, ready, and again, ready, and 2, ready, and cool. From here on out, it's fairly common and it's fairly easy for this next little phrase. All I have is a tap triplet roll, which means I'll start not necessarily with a tap. It's an accent in this case. That used to confuse me a lot because sometimes people will call a tap an unaccented note. But in this case, when we say a tap triplet roll, or we add a tap to a roll, that just means that the roll starts on the second hand and the first hand doesn't have that doubled articulation, right? So I have this triplet, stop. Yeah? So I just have 2 counts of that, and then I have 1 count of a paradiddle diddle. So after that triplet, paradiddle diddle, So putting that together, triplet, paradiddle diddle stop. 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 Awesome. Now, if you have a little bit of some problems with the actual paradiddle there at the end, just make sure you go back through, take it nice and slow, open to close, and really make sure that you stay away from that dreaded 3-height paradiddle jam. I'm sure you've heard of that. If you haven't, here it goes. So you have your first note, bam! A lot of people don't have a problem with that, but people have a problem controlling it to make sure that it can stay down, right? So that's the pair. The a lot of times, because it's on the left hand and it's a lot of people's non-dominant hand, a lot of times it's way too small, and they almost treat it kind of like a little grace note. So it just kind of scratches the top of the head there. It doesn't activate the whole body of the drum, right? And then, being that we didn't control this one, that right hand here, it ends up playing sort of an in-between this sort of small grace note thing we did on our left hand and then where it actually should be. So it ends up becoming 3 heights. The accent, too small, and then too big, right? So in order to combat that, what I'm going to do here is make sure I really place that left hand exactly where I want it to be, and be very specific with it. And then that first right hand, I really want to make sure I keep my hand relaxed, but my back fingers stay fairly close to my palms here when I'm actually taking that accent, in order to keep my fulcrum relaxed in the front, because I'm going to need that for these little two doubles after that. And that's what's going to help keep my actual stick down, keeping my actual fingers a little bit closer to my palm, not squeezing, but a little bit closer there. So I can have just two height paradiddle diddles. So let's take that back now with that in mind, and let's take the whole lick kind of slow. That business, and then going into the paradiddle diddle with the two heights, right? Paradiddle diddle, stop. Two, ready, and two, ready, and two, ready, and two, ready, and oh! One more time, ready, and awesome. I hope you guys had a nice, fun time with this lick. I would say this is definitely something that's kind of like on a intermediate to beginner kind of high school level. I definitely want to do a few more of these that are nice and easy to kind of jump in there and get a little bit of a grasp on. If you have any questions about it, hit me up in the comment link below. If you want to support the page, definitely go over to my Patreon page, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Deuce.